My partner, who had always loathed physical activity, unexpectedly discovered a passion for yoga. She would often exclaim, "Aren't you thrilled that I'm practicing yoga?" Naturally, I supported her newfound interest. That was until one fateful day when I decided to pick her up after class and stumbled upon a shocking scene. My partner and her male yoga instructor were engaged in yoga completely unclothed. Standing outside the studio, my heart plummeted. I had never anticipated that her instructor would be a man. Initially, I had only symbolically objected to her practicing yoga, considering her usual aversion to any form of exercise. She had convinced me that yoga would enhance our intimacy and that it was all for my benefit, so I had reluctantly agreed. However, I had envisioned a female instructor. Witnessing my partner's intimate movements with another man ignited a fury within me. Just as I was about to storm in and confront them, my partner slipped and fell into the instructor's muscular arms. "You did that on purpose," he smirked. She stood up and playfully asked, "How many women have you used that trick on?" My heart sank further. She wasn't even angry, she was flirting with him. A wave of betrayal washed over me, and my fists clenched tightly. The instructor held her close. "Lila, this is my job. I need to make a living." Lila pouted, "Don't think you can come in without protection next time." At that moment, I was at a loss for words. I looked around for something to throw, wanting to confront these two deceivers. But then I reconsidered. Charging in would only lead to a brawl, and I would end up divorced. Wouldn't that be too easy for them? I suppressed my anger and called out, "Lila, are you almost done with your class?" "Almost. By the way, my distant cousin is in town, and I want to treat him to dinner tonight." As she spoke, Lila mischievously glanced at the instructor. His expression shifted dramatically, and he pointed at himself, as if asking if she meant him. Lila nodded and made a SHH gesture, continuing, "Honey, can you prepare a few extra dishes tonight? And wine," the instructor mouthed urgently. Lila then instructed me, "Buy 2 bottles of good wine." I couldn't help but sneer. These two were clearly trying to provoke me in my own home. "Fine," I agreed. After leaving the gym, I headed straight to the supermarket to buy wine. I purchased 2 bottles of good wine, but one I diluted with 80% water, significantly reducing its alcohol content. The other bottle I mixed with half a bottle of medical alcohol, specifically for her dear instructor. "So you enjoy drinking, huh? Let's see if you can handle this." After preparing the wine, I bought a few pre-made dishes. "Think you deserve my cooking, Lila? You'll never have that chance again." I was ready to play my cards right. Around 6:30 p.m., Lila returned with her so-called distant cousin. This cousin certainly knew how to play the part, bringing a bag of cheap apples. "Honey, let me introduce you. This is my cousin, Kai." "Oh, cousin, you didn't need to bring anything. Times must be tough for you," I remarked. Lila and the instructor, Kai, were taken aback by my words, seemingly puzzled by my comment. "Can't you see my designer clothes? Come on, don't just stand there, have a seat." I invited Kai to the couch and poured him a glass of cold water. "Kai, it's almost Qingming Festival. Why did you suddenly come to City A?" Kai looked caught off guard and glanced at Lila. She quickly intervened, "What does traveling have to do with holidays? Honey, can you ask something more relevant? You don't get it. Cousin's parents have passed away, and Qingming Festival is for visiting graves." Kai nearly spat out the water he had just drunk. "What's wrong, Kai? Did I say something wrong?" He put on a pained expression and nodded stiffly. "Yes, I've already visited their graves in advance." "And what about your sister's case? Has that been resolved?" Kai slowly lifted his head, looking bewildered. Lila immediately interrupted, "Honey, you must be mistaken." I said, "Didn't you tell me about this?" Lila paused. "I was talking about a different cousin." "Oh," I nodded awkwardly. "Kai, it seems Lila miscommunicated." Kai's face darkened, but he forced a smile and said it was fine. Then he asked if dinner was ready. He mentioned he had never met me before and wanted to have a good drink tonight. I quickly got to work and took them to the kitchen. Since I usually focused on healthy eating, I had never bought pre-made dishes before. Today's sudden feast surprised Lila. "Honey, you did a great job. It's not every day cousin comes by, so I couldn't slack off. Come, sit down, cousin, make yourself comfortable." Kai sat opposite us, and I poured him a glass of the strong wine. Seeing this, Lila hurried to fill my glass as well. I smiled and said, "1 bottle per person." I opened the pre-prepared bottle of liquor and poured myself a glass. The first drink always has a story. I stood up with my glass and opened my phone's camera. "Come on, honey, let's take a photo with cousin Kai. We can get it printed and framed later." Lila and Kai laughed at this. I could sense the deeper meaning behind their smiles. Who else would willingly take a photo with the man who was cheating with his partner? Probably just me. "Honey, this is a video, not a photo." "I know it's a video. We'll record first, then we can capture the best moments as screenshots later. It saves us from taking multiple photos and interrupting our drinking." They both agreed it made sense and cooperated enthusiastically. The three of us squeezed into the frame. I loudly asked, "Cousin Kai, aren't you handsome?" "Handsome," they both replied enthusiastically. They probably thought it was just like saying cheese for the camera. It's far more than that. When I catch them in the act, that cousin will mean much more than just infidelity. How could it be the same, huh? Once everything was set, it was time to start drinking. For me, the wine went down like cold water. Kai, on the other hand, took a small sip and immediately shuddered violently. "This wine." Kai looked puzzled. "It's fine," I said. "I spent over 1,000 per bottle on it." Kai was reassured by the price. "It's good, just has a bit of a hospital taste." After a few rounds, Kai hadn't even finished half a bottle but was already slurring his words and swaying in his seat. I played along, pretending to be tipsy as well. At this point, Lila suddenly said, "Honey, there's something I need to tell you." "Go ahead, dear, speak your mind. Cousin is actually in some trouble and came to us for help." "Isn't that right, cousin?" Lila looked at Kai, who immediately put on a poor show of acting. "That's right, things have been tough lately." I had nowhere else to go and thought of my cousin Lila. He even teared up, whether he got too into character or not. So Lila was suggesting I give money to support this gigolo. "Honey, my cousin has been really good to me. He even saved my life when we were kids. When we were 7, we played by the riverbank, and I almost drowned after slipping in. Cousin Kai jumped in without hesitation to save me." "Well, no problem. I'll help. Tomorrow, I'll find Cousin Kai a job." I cut Lila off quickly because her acting was so poor that I feared she might slip up. Unexpectedly, as soon as they heard about the job, they both started explaining urgently. Especially Lila, who was the most anxious. "Honey, you misunderstood. Cousin actually wants to borrow some money to get back on his feet. Look at his clothes, all branded. He used to be a successful businessman, just recently fell on hard times." "Oh, I see. How much does cousin want to borrow?" Lila nudged Kai. Kai gritted his teeth and said, 300,000. Lila looked disappointed. Did she think it wasn't enough? This heartless person, doesn't she know how hard I work every day to earn money? Things are a bit better now with around 10,000 a month coming in, but before, I was really risking my life. Back when we first got married, her expenses were huge. To satisfy her need to keep up with others, I secretly worked as a water ghost for 3 months. This involved diving at construction sites to retrieve drill bits, earning 10,000 if I surfaced alive and 100,000 for my family if I didn't. Several times I almost died. Yet even then, I named Lila as the beneficiary on my insurance policy. And this is how she repays me. "Honey, can you do it?" Lila eagerly asked me. I pretended to be drunk and boasted, 300,000 to start over? "I'll invest 1,000,000. They were both stunned and then delighted. Lila was particularly surprised, not expecting I had that much money. But then I doused their excitement with cold water, saying, "The only issue is I don't have that much liquid cash right now. Here's what we'll do. I have a friend who gives out loans at very low interest. For people like us, it's no problem to loan out 500,000 each. I'll take a 500,000 loan in my name, and honey, you can take another 500,000. That should be enough." As soon as they heard loan, their expressions soured. To be precise, they were disappointed. Kai muttered, "Loans aren't safe, are they?" "There's nothing unsafe about it. That guy and I grew up together. Cousin, I'm not bragging, but even if you can't repay him, he won't come after you. Our friendship is solid. I'll even guarantee the loan for you." Anyone who's ever taken a loan knows that if the borrower can't repay, the guarantor takes on all the pressure. Kai quickly agreed. Lila's mouth slowly curled into a smile. I kept smiling as well. The fish had bitten. After we had settled the important matters, Kai began to frequently toast me. The guy could hold his liquor and only passed out after finishing the bottle. I helped him to the guest room to rest, and while cleaning up the dishes, Lila told me she felt dizzy and wanted to rest too. I let her go, knowing she would feel dizzy because I had slipped some sleeping pills into her drink. Once I was sure they were both asleep, I sneaked Lila's phone out. I found her chat history with Kai. The messages were explicit. These two had started their affair from the first day they exchanged money and even went to a hotel that night. Lila frequently sent Kai provocative photos, and he reciprocated with images of his abs and thighs. There were also numerous hotel room numbers provided by Lila. They had hooked up in hotels at least 10 times in a month. She wasn't practicing yoga to please me, it was always Kai who was getting satisfied. Grinding my teeth, I took screenshots of all the chat records. Then I stormed into Lila's room and slapped her 5 times hard. She groggily opened her eyes. "What's wrong, honey?" "Nothing, just mosquitoes." She fell back into a deep sleep. I repeated the process in Kai's room, punching him as well. Even after beating them, I didn't feel satisfied. Hitting them while they were half asleep didn't feel fulfilling enough. As I thought it over, an idea struck me. I dragged Kai into our bedroom. After closing the door, I messed up the living room and then lay down on the couch. Early the next morning, I gathered my strength, swung my arm wide, and rained slaps on both their faces until they woke up. This time they really woke up. Lila was furious, and Kai was just as angry. They nearly jumped out of bed to fight me. I pointed at Kai and cursed, "You bastard. I was just about to invest $1 million in you, and you do this to me." Kai instantly understood. Lila was also shocked. This wasn't some hotel room they had rented, it was my home. Kai wasn't her lover, he was her cousin. In a dramatic turn to secure my $1 million investment, Lila slapped Kai hard. Feigning innocence, she checked under the blanket. "Cousin, how could you do this?" Kai looked utterly regretful. "I drank too much last night. I don't remember how I got here." "Lila, cousin-in-law, please let me explain. I genuinely forgot. Besides, look at my clothes, clearly, nothing happened." I looked at them, seething with rage. After a long pause, I waved my hand dismissively. "Yeah, we did drink a lot last night. Even I ended up sleeping on the couch." "Forget it, we're family." Lila and Kai were visibly relieved. After breakfast, Kai left quickly, his face swollen from the slaps. After he left, Lila whispered to me, "Honey, we shouldn't drink like that again." I replied, "Right, next time something worse might happen." Lila added, "So about the money for cousin. We still need to invest. I think your cousin has potential. If he succeeds, we might even get a share." Lila couldn't hide her happiness and immediately took me out to get a loan. I wasn't lying, I did have a childhood friend who worked in loans. I secretly messaged him last night, asking him to refuse my loan request due to insufficient credit. Even as a guarantor, he should find a way to make them sign and then remove my name. Loan officers know how to handle these things, no need to teach them. My friend asked what was going on, and I honestly told him I had been cheated on and wanted to punish the adulterers. He was furious and promised to handle it. When we went for the loan, Kai came along as well. Upon hearing that my credit was insufficient, Lila was puzzled. "Honey, you've never taken a loan before. How come your credit is bad?" I pretended to be equally perplexed. My friend quickly explained, "Technically, it's not really about credit. It's because he got into a fight a few years ago and had to be disciplined, so the system flags him." Lila nodded suspiciously as if trying to recall when I had fought. Kai, standing beside us, said disappointedly, "So we can't get the $1 million loan then?" "$1 million? That's easy. Just give me both of your IDs to check." They hesitated but eventually handed over their IDs. The so-called system easily approved them. My friend said to them, "Each of you can get a limit of $1.5 million. How much do you want to borrow?" $1.5 million? I thought we could only get $500,000. Most people can only get $500,000, but Ken is my buddy, so I can use some channels. Of course, the system has to approve it. If Ken doesn't pass, there's nothing I can do. I almost couldn't help but give my friend a thumbs up. That explanation was brilliant. "Why don't we each borrow $500,000? Kai asked Lila. Lila didn't hesitate and nodded, but my friend immediately reminded them the interest on $500,000 is quite high. It works out that borrowing $1.5 million is actually the best deal, almost like a housing fund loan. But I don't need that much." Kai seemed unsure. After all, who normally has $1.5 million lying around, let alone in loans? Unexpectedly, my friend joked with him, "Why are you so afraid? With a guarantor, there's nothing to worry about. Just go for it." Lila, hearing this, also found it reasonable, clearly planning to screw me over. She nudged Kai, "Cousin, haven't you always wanted to open a gym? Since my husband supports you, just go for it." "Honey, if we borrow $3 million, can you handle it?" I pretended to hesitate, rubbing my forehead and acting like I was making a big decision. "I can handle it." Seeing cousin dressed in all those brands, he must have an eye for business. "Cousin, don't forget to give me a share of the profits when you make money." With the atmosphere built up, Kai was already riding a tiger, unable to back down. It was clear he was hesitant. Only Lila, blindly in love, believed in her lover's ability without question. She even suggested opening a gym. Gyms often fail, and even selling the equipment later would be tough. But that was perfect for my plan. If they didn't squander the money, my revenge wouldn't be meaningful. Kai finally signed the contract. He and Lila each borrowed $1.5 million. They watched me closely as I signed the guarantor section. After the contract was completed, they carefully reviewed it once more before leaving satisfied. Later, I secretly asked my friend, who told me the pen I signed with had disappearing ink. That's why he kept reminding me not to press too hard, ostensibly to avoid tearing the paper but actually to leave no trace. The real show was about to begin. That afternoon, after finishing work, I returned home to find Lila was not there. I could guess where she went. I urgently needed to capture evidence of their affair. The more explicit, the stronger the impact of their incestuous betrayal. It would ensure those two scumbags were utterly disgraced. Last night, I secretly installed a hidden app on Lila's phone. Not only could it track her location, but it also allowed me to eavesdrop. Finding her was easy. She was at a cafe. Lila was indeed discussing opening a gym with Kai. Lila, I think opening a gym is the best option. We should stick to what we know. Kai, cousin Lila, aren't you worried I'll attract more female members as a gym owner? Ha ha. Lila, I've secured so much money for you. If you mess around again, I'll cut off your manhood. Humph. Kai, alright, we'll open a gym then. Honestly, babe, is your husband stupid? He agreed to guarantee a $3 million loan for a distant cousin he's never met. Lila, you don't get it. Ken always does what I say. If he hadn't agreed, I would have thrown a fit, and he would have caved immediately. Trust me, that guy is a fool. He even worked as a water ghost behind my back once. Kai, water ghost? Damn, is he suicidal? Lila, ha, it was all for me. Kai, haha, I almost feel guilty taking advantage of such a good man's wife. Lila, oh please, you can't even walk past a woman without hitting on her. Feeling guilty, are you? Kai, guilt is one thing, but sleeping together is another. Cousin Lila, tonight I want you. Lila, hee, calling me cousin is quite thrilling. Kai, have you really been with your cousin before? Lila, get lost. Working hard for Lila, only for her to call me a fool. This despicable woman. But now, I felt nothing, no anger. I had resolved to ruin their lives. To me, they were just prey, not even human. As I contemplated, Lila's location markers started moving. The next stop was likely a hotel. I initially planned to catch them in the act myself but reconsidered. If I caught them now, what if they returned the loan money? Then I remembered a platform on the dark web. It had few members but was full of scandal enthusiasts. To make money, some streamers there even specialized in catching cheaters. They helped those who couldn't personally confront their unfaithful partners by gathering evidence at hotels. I immediately logged onto the platform and found a streamer in our city who specialized in this kind of work, known as Tiger Cub. His fees were steep, $1,000. Of course, I wasn't going to pay out of my own pocket. Instead, I called Lila. Honey, has the money arrived? It just came in this afternoon. Your friend works really fast. Be sure to thank him with a meal sometime. No need to wait. I'm with him right now, but your husband hasn't been paid yet and is a bit strapped for cash. Can you transfer me $1,000 for spending? Lila, acting like a nouveau riche, immediately transferred $1,000 to my account. After the call ended, I confirmed their exact room number through her conversation with the receptionist. In Tiger Cub's livestream, I posted a comment. Got a task, will you take it? A pair of cousins are in a hotel room. I have the room number. Help me catch them in the act. As soon as I mentioned cousins, the chat exploded with excitement. Even Tiger Cub was impressed. He immediately messaged me privately to confirm the exact address. I just played the role of a viewer, watching Tiger Cub leave his house and drive to the target hotel. I kept reminding him in the chat, remember, the footage needs to be clear. Tiger Cub assured me not to doubt his professionalism. Then he asked if I had any special requests. I thought for a moment and realized I did. When you get in, say this line, Kai, you scumbag. How could you do this to my sister? I'm going to expose you both. As a yoga instructor, Kai had countless female friends. This line would shift all suspicion away from me, placing the blame squarely on Kai. Soon, Tiger Cub arrived at the hotel, standing outside the target room. Just as he was about to enter, I told him to wait. The two inside hadn't started yet, they were probably showering with the water running. Ah damn, I guessed wrong. I immediately told Tiger Cub to proceed. He borrowed a universal key card from the floor's cleaning lady, swiped it, and kicked the door open, charging in. What followed on the livestream was an eyesore. Kai and Lila frantically tried to hide, thinking it was a police raid, diving under the covers. Kai's voice trembled. Who are you? Tiger Cub, ever the professional, splashed the leftover milk tea on Kai's face, grabbed his clothes, and shouted, you bastard. How could you do this to my sister? Who's your sister? Wait until I expose you two scumbags. Tiger Cub completed his task flawlessly, and I recorded the entire livestream. Ha, it's that easy. Lila, who is he? Whose sister did you mess with? Kai, I don't know. I haven't been with any other woman recently, just you. Lila, now he's got us on video. If he exposes us, we're done. What if my husband sees it? Kai, don't ask me. I'm stressed out too. If your husband sees it, he'll divorce you, and then we can be together openly. The listening device went silent for a while. From a distance, I could tell Lila was tempted. Lila, then we need to transfer the assets from home quickly, or I'll be left with nothing. Kai, right, transfer the assets, and we need to open the gym as soon as possible, leaving him no room to maneuver. I accidentally sped up their plan. My heart was filled with joy, just waiting for them to spend the $3 million quickly. Over the next half-month, Lila often left early and returned late. She was secretive every day and avoided meeting my eyes. Guilty as charged. Little did she know that every move she and her lover made was under my control. They rented a large apartment in the city center and were busy with renovations and buying equipment. They even underestimated their budget. After spending all $3 million, they realized it wasn't enough, leaving a large empty space. They thought I was a fool and wanted me to be the guarantor for another loan from my friend. Now I had leverage. I told them frankly that the last $1.5 million each was almost the limit and I couldn't ask my friend for more favors. Kai was very generous, offering a $10,000 commission on the spot. These two had clearly lost touch with reality after squandering $3 million, thinking $10,000 wasn't much. Their minds were consumed by their business. With the conversation at this point, I had to help them. As a result, they each took out another $500,000 loan, bringing the total to $400,000. In our county, that's enough to buy at least 5 houses. So grandiose, truly impressive. I secretly gave them a thumbs up and then accepted their invitation to visit their gym during its soft opening. I must admit, the gym they spent money on was quite nice, but it had very few people, just a handful of women, probably Kai's mistresses. Lila's face was priceless when those women arrived, secretly pinching Kai's waist out of jealousy. Lila could really be called a passionate lover. Ken, brother-in-law, let's have dinner tonight and you can give me some feedback on the gym. Kai invited me. I agreed but strongly suggested bringing those women along to liven things up. Kai was visibly uncomfortable. Lila asked, "Honey, what are you up to?" Those are cousin's friends. Do you have any ideas?" "Of course not, dear. They helped out during the soft opening, and cousin should show some gratitude." We talked privately away from those women. Additionally, Lila kept her distance from Kai in my presence so the women didn't know each other's identities. I was planning a big show. With things said this far and the women willing to go, Kai had no choice but to agree as I was the main investor with the final say. We chose a star-rated hotel, sparing no expense. Our group of 8 ordered a table full of dishes, with the bill likely exceeding $10,000. Such an important occasion definitely called for alcohol. With 8 people drinking, the liquor flowed freely. As the alcohol kicked in, the atmosphere grew lively. The women glanced at each other like in a palace drama, seemingly with many hidden thoughts, waiting for the right moment to speak. Kai was smart, constantly talking about his gym, never giving any opportunity for emotional topics. Seeing this wouldn't do, I immediately interjected, "Honey, which one is your cousin's girlfriend?" This statement carried a lot of weight. It not only revealed Lila and Kai's relationship but also put Kai on the spot. Sure enough, being called cousins in front of many romantic rivals made Lila's face look terrible. "How should I know?" "Cousin, you tell us." Lila spoke with emotion, and Kai was like sitting on pins and needles. He smiled awkwardly at me. "Brother-in-law, I don't have a girlfriend yet." Slap a woman in her 30s, blushing, slapped the table and stood up. "Kai, what do you mean? You asked me to play along, and now you say you don't have a girlfriend? What do you take me for? What do you mean you're his girlfriend?" The woman beside her, who had been holding back, finally stood up. "And what's your relationship with Kai?" Since the beginning of the dinner, I noticed these two women didn't get along, always on guard against each other. The fuse finally lit. The other women didn't react as strongly. It was clear they had families and only saw Kai as a plaything. Now, like me, they sat back and watched the show. Sensing the imminent battle, Kai hurried to mediate. "This is a bit complicated. Let's talk about it later and eat first." "Eat your damn food." One woman in her 30s picked up a plate and threw it at Kai. "You bastard. I fed you and took care of you, and this is how you repay me." The woman beside her wasn't one to back down either, throwing her tea at Kai. "Scumbag." Both women stormed out but quickly returned. I had uploaded the video of them cheating to Kai's social circle. Kai had his own fitness circle, and I had anonymously joined it using a secondary account through Lila. Since all the money was spent and his mistresses were present, what better time to stir things up? When the women returned, they immediately started fighting with Kai, scratching his face until it looked like a mess. Seeing her lover being attacked, Lila tried to intervene, but the two women turned their attention to her. One grabbed Lila's hair while the other slapped her repeatedly. Their coordination was impressive. Just moments ago, they were enemies. "You filthy slut. Seducing your cousin into bed. You worthless whore. How can you commit incest? Are you your mom and your uncle's illegitimate daughter?" The scene turned chaotic, with plates and bowls shattered everywhere, even attracting the attention of the staff outside. The waitstaff yelled for them to stop. I couldn't sit idly by any longer. I seized the moment, stepping in to protect Lila. I pushed her back a bit to create some distance, readying my arm. "You got cheated on and you're still protecting her." The woman nearly shoved the video in my face. I'm not a great actor, so I yelled, "Bastard." I turned around and swung my arm, slapping Lila's scratched face hard. Honestly, that slap left Lila dizzy, making her collapse into a chair. But I wasn't done. I immediately grabbed a wine bottle and smashed it over Kai's head. The bottle shattered, and Kai clutched his head, crying out, tears and snot streaming down his face. Blood flowed through his fingers. "You two scumbags. Cousins committing incest." "Honey, let me explain." I slapped Lila again. Pointing at her, I said, "Divorce, damn it." Then I kicked Kai to the ground and walked out of the hotel, stepping over him. Once outside the hotel, I waved my arms and danced. Damn, that felt good. Once I got home, I didn't rest. I quickly edited the video of the affair, posing as a third party, and uploaded it online. Title: Shocking. Cousins from City A caught in bed together. As soon as the video was uploaded, major bloggers rushed to repost it. Some even begged for the uncensored original video. The main thing was to keep the hype high. The gossip didn't make it to the trending list but quickly spread across various short video platforms. Many people recognized Lila and Kai. Among them were a few of my friends who immediately called to ask what was going on. I told them I had no idea and that I had already decided to divorce Lila. Lila's parents even came to see me that very night. The elderly couple, with tears streaming down their faces, almost knelt before me, trying to atone for their daughter's sins. These two weren't easy to deal with. They had demanded $500,000 as a dowry, and I rarely visited them throughout the year because they never treated me well. Now they were kneeling, begging for my forgiveness. I simply sneered. "Uncle, Auntie, Lila's infidelity means she should leave the marriage with nothing. You should prepare to return that $500,000 dowry to me as soon as possible." The old couple were stunned and at a loss. At that moment, Lila returned, only to face a double assault. Her parents hit and cursed her, calling her a disgraceful, shameless harlot. They even demanded to know which cousin she was with, as they had no idea. After a night of continuous beatings, Lila's mental state collapsed. She pushed her parents away in a frenzy. "I love cheating. I love Kai. Kai is not some cousin, he's my lover. Are you satisfied now? Misfortune has befallen our family." Lila's parents looked like they wanted to die. But Lila remained indifferent, her eyes cold as she looked at me. "I deceived you. Let's get a divorce." "Of course we're getting divorced." I acted even colder than her but then added, "Return the $500,000 dowry I paid when I married you without missing a cent. I don't have money right now, but I'll return it when I do. Sign the agreement first." Lila had prepared well, she had already drafted the divorce agreement. I glanced over it. Lila was to leave with nothing, and the $500,000 dowry would be returned later. No problem, so I signed it. Then Lila abandoned her parents and left alone. It puzzled me, those were her parents, not mine. I promptly kicked them out too. Finally, some peace at home. Lila and Kai, in their foolishness, decided to officially open the gym during such a high-profile scandal. As expected, netizens quickly dug up the affair and organized a boycott. Their painstakingly assembled gym faced a disastrous opening. The scandal was so severe that the landlord preferred to pay a $50,000 penalty to break the lease with them. Lila and Kai even begged the landlord, but he remained unmoved. In the end, less than a month and a half after opening, the gym failed. No one wanted to buy their used equipment, finding it disgusting and tainted. They were left with a $400,000 debt. Oh, and my $500,000 dowry, of course. Before the repayment date, Lila didn't contact me. After defaulting, she was warned by my friend and urgently called me. "Ken, did you tamper with the contract?" "No, what contract are you talking about?" "Stop pretending. The loan contract. You were the guarantor, why is your name not on it now?" Lila was stunned on the other end of the phone. "Ken, you tricked me. Did you plan all this to deceive me?" "I don't know what you're talking about. Goodbye." I hung up mercilessly. Immediately, I sold my house and moved away. I didn't want this crazy woman bothering me, one bite from her and I'd be in trouble. But I didn't give up on the $500,000 dowry. I took her to court. Given we had lived together for years, the court awarded me $500,000. I was satisfied with that, it was better than nothing. But the problem was Lila couldn't pay. They still had the huge loan to repay. I'm a kind person and can't bear to see others suffer. So, I bought her parents' house for $500,000. Lila sent her parents to a cheap nursing home. Not long after, I heard that Lila's mom hanged herself, unable to bear the humiliation. Even elderly people nowadays use the internet. Some old men in their 70s and 80s gossip too. Lila's mother couldn't endure the constant teasing about her daughter's scandal. Then, her father, driven by grief over his wife's suicide, drowned the gossiper in a toilet. Now he faces life in prison. Lila became an orphan. However, that wasn't the worst part was the loan. The interest compounded, making it impossible to pay off without significant means. I heard that Lila turned to the sex industry to try and fill the financial hole. But half a month later, she was found dead in the street. The police quickly identified Kai as the prime suspect through their investigation. Kai was arrested, and as Lila's ex-husband, I cooperated with the investigation. In the detention center, I saw Kai. The once vibrant, muscular young man was now emaciated. I offered him a cigarette and asked what happened. He said he became a male escort to make money, but he was victimized and got addicted to drugs. Under the dual pressures, he gave up on life. But before dying, he felt that Lila was to blame for everything and wanted to take her down with him. So, that's what led to the events that followed. After hearing this, I found it incredibly satisfying. I gave Kai a big thumbs up. Well done. A man should always seek revenge. Just like me.